Albert Fish's unsettling journey began on May 19, 1870, with his birth to Ellen and Randall Fish. However, beneath this seemingly ordinary start lay a dark and twisted tale. His family grappled with mental health challenges, his mother haunted by hallucinations, and his sister burdened with a mental affliction. The early death of his father led Albert to St. John's Orphanage, a place that subjected him to harsh treatment and, strangely, sparked a perverse pleasure in pain, steering him towards a path of sadism. Though he was removed by his mother at age 10 from the orphanage, Albert carried with him the lingering scars of his troubled past. By the age of 12, his interests took a sinister turn, fueled by encounters that exposed him to unsettling desires. Weekends involved spying on boys in bathrooms while they change, hinting at the darkness within. Before we move on, do not forget to like and subscribe. It will help me grow fast. Thank you. At 20, Albert found himself navigating the streets of New York City, adopting the guise of a prostitute to conceal his malevolent nature. His actions escalated to unspeakable horrors, involving the molestation and cruel treatment of young boys. The city became a haunting landscape as Albert Fish's twisted deeds left an indelible mark on the innocence he callously shattered. Now, imagine a chilling scene in the twisted narrative of Albert Fish. In a farmhouse, he skillfully lured 19-year-old Thomas Kedden into a nightmarish relationship. The plot takes a sinister twist as Fish, more horror movie villain than a human being, inflicts unimaginable horror by severing half of Kedden's private parts. Oddly, he doesn't kill him, but lets Kedden live, leaving behind a handful of cash, as though that could compensate for the unspeakable trauma. Leap forward to 1990, and Fish unleashes a new chapter of terror. This time, he's on a stabbing spree, targeting young guys randomly. His rationale is as twisted as his actions. He believes people won't care as much if his victims were disabled or are African American. In 1924, Fish, now 54, is unraveling further into the abyss. Convinced that he's carrying out divine instructions given to him by God, he develops a disturbing urge to torment and harm children. It's a narrative that reads like a horror script gone awry, a roller coaster plunging into the darkest realms of human madness. The real-life horrors of Albert Fish defy belief, a tale that leaves an indelible mark on the annals of human depravity. In the chilling year of 1928, Albert Fish's disturbing story took a horrifying turn. It all began when he responded to an ad placed by Edward Budd in the New York World, pretending to be a simple farmer. At the Budd residence, Fish informs the family that he plans to hire Edward and his friends upon his return from a trip. Fish's misleading response set off a chain of unsettling events. Later, Fish confessed to a nightmarish plan. He wanted to hurt Edward and then leave him alone. But the tale took an even darker twist when Fish encountered Edward's little sister, 10-year-old Grace Budd. Upon returning from his trip, he meets Grace Budd and immediately shifts his focus to her. Crafting a deceitful story about a niece's birthday party, Fish managed to convince Grace's parents to let her go with him. Grace, delighted to go like any 10-year-old, had no idea what waited for her. Leading her to an abandoned house, Fish committed an unspeakable act. In that grim setting, he manually strangled her, proceeded to decapitate and dismember her body, and shockingly consumed most of the remains over the subsequent days. The extent of Albert Fish's malevolence reached unprecedented horrors in this gruesome chapter of his chilling story. In the aftermath of Grace Budd's disappearance, Charles Edward Pope, a 66-year-old superintendent, found himself under suspicion and was initially arrested. However, the police later determined him not guilty. The real culprit, Albert Fish, lurked in the shadows until November 1934. During that fateful month, an anonymous letter reached Grace's parents, and it held the key to unraveling the mystery. The letter, chilling to the core, contained Fish's own confession. First, I stripped her naked. How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death, then cut her into small pieces, so I could take the meat to my rooms, cook, and eat it. It took me 9 days to consume her entire body. This sinister revelation marked the turning point in exposing the gruesome reality of Albert Fish's heinous acts. Following his arrest, Albert Fish admitted to even more horrifying crimes, and one of the darkest chapters unfolded with the murder of 4-year-old Billy Gaffney. The innocent boy disappeared while playing with a neighbor, and a chilling revelation came from another child who claimed the culprit was the frightening boogeyman responsible for taking Billy. Fish didn't shy away from confessing to this abhorrent act, providing graphic and disturbing details. In a truly nightmarish account, Fish disclosed, "I took tools, a good heavy cat of 9 tails. Homemade. Short handle. Cut one of my belts in half, slit these halves in 6 strips about 8 inches long. I whipped his bare behind till the blood ran from his legs. I cut off his ears, nose, slit his mouth from ear to ear, gouged out his eyes. He was dead then. I stuck the knife in his belly and held my mouth to his body and drank his blood." This horrifying confession unveils the unimaginable cruelty of Albert Fish, laying bare the gruesome reality of his unspeakable actions. Albert Fish admitted to another horrifying crime, the murder of Francis McDonnell. The young boy vanished while playing with his brother and friends on Staten Island, only to be tragically found lifeless in the woods, strangled with his own suspenders. While behind bars, it was uncovered that Fish had inserted needles into his groin and abdomen. In a shocking twist, X-rays conducted after his arrest revealed a staggering 29 needles lodged in his pelvic region. Fish chillingly described how he found satisfaction in inserting and removing these items from his own body, exposing the disturbing and self-destructive nature of his actions. As the trial unfolded, Fish's defense tried to make the case that he was legally insane. They presented various descriptions and testimonies, aiming to convince the jury of his mental illness. However, their efforts fell short, and the jury dismissed this claim, branding him a psychopathic personality without psychosis. Following a 10-day trial, Albert Fish was pronounced guilty for his monstrous crimes. The grim outcome of his conviction was the impending execution by electric chair. On January 16, 1936, at the age of 65, Albert Fish faced the ultimate punishment for his heinous deeds. After committing terrible deeds, a wicked individual now faces the electric chair, concluding a frightening tale that has left a lasting imprint on the history of crime.